Reel-03B finds us in the fall of 1968. We're going to Niagara Falls with Grandma and Grandpa. Grandpa recently celebrated his 60th birthday on April 9. Grandma will soon be 56 on December 12, which is 55 and a big bit. Here we're looking at the main Niagara Gorge, Canada on the other side. We're photographing it from the US side. A fancy restaurant in the sky there that we never visited. And here we see the Maid of the Mist trip, where you travel in the diesel-powered boat right under the falls. It's a really great trip. I am now sprouting a new single lens reflex camera, which means Mother is using the movie camera much more. The still camera was always in my possession. I was taking lots and lots of pictures with it, as one does with a new toy. Cameras cost considerably less in the US than in the previous countries I've lived in, Canada and the UK, and I was earning much more than the stipend I got as a postdoctoral fellow at the National Research Council of Canada. So I felt very rich. No kids to worry about in those days. This is the Niagara River before it goes over the falls. Even without the falls, it's a very impressive sight. Because my movie's so focused on movement, I ended up not having any pictures in the movies of Nana. That really distressed me when I went through them all, and it just happened in that way. Things we did with Nana were not so inviting from a movie perspective. Took lots and lots of stills that you've seen, but she didn't appear in any of the movies. Grandma and Grandpa were much more adventurous than almost anybody of their age. And of course most of the movies we took were just of water flowing or ducks. Occasionally people found their way into them at this stage. Later on, people dominated, but they were very young people. On the way back from Niagara Falls, we again visited the Welland Canal. This is the way to get from Lake Ontario, it's from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario without dropping over the falls. Presently there are 8 very substantial locks. The Welland Canal was started well over 100 years ago, with many more locks. Each lock imposes a considerable delay, so that if you can have fewer, deeper ones, it speeds the transit. Still takes about 11 hours to go through the Welland Canal. It is the way that shipping can move from the Great Lakes into the St. Lawrence Freeway, and then, if desired, further into the Atlantic Ocean. Here we're having nourishment in some nondescript place I can't identify. In those days your dad could and did eat just about anything. Grandpa also had a most hearty appetite. A great affinity for ice cream. Now we're at the most famous waterfall in Michigan, the Tequqmonon Falls. Very pretty waterfall. I think the total distance it drops is greater than Niagara, but of course it doesn't have anything near the volume. The color is from tannin. I think tannin is the substance. It's not copper. It's a natural substance that gives it that color. And as you see again, Mother is taking the movie pictures. And I'm shooting everything with my new toy, the single lens reflex. All the pictures show it with a 135mm lens. And Grandma had a half-frame camera. She took lots and lots of pictures. Both of the ladies were very good, much better eye than I had. And here on this big trip we took with Grandma and Grandpa, we're now at the Mackinac Bridge. Built in the mid-1950s, one of the nation's most outstanding bridges. It would be much more famous if it were in a more populated location. Not all that many people see it. Oh, there you see the famous Chevrolet Biscayne, the 1967 Biscayne, which played such a large part in our lives for the next decade or so. Had an L6 engine which was designed, I believe, in 1938 and was incredibly reliable. And there we see the Mighty Mac, as it's sometimes called. We're driving across it. You can see the hood of the Biscayne popping into the picture from time to time. It's a very long span, very high supports. I believe the dimensions are generally bigger than those of the Golden Gate. Not a lot of traffic going over it, as you can see, hence it's not near so famous. Before the bridge was built, the only way to get across the Straits of Mackinac was by ferry. Here we see a ferry, but it's not crossing the straits. It's going to take passengers to an island called Mackinac Island. This island has no motorized traffic on it and has a very expensive hotel, the Grand Hotel. Mum is manning the movie camera again. She felt quite sick on this, which would be normal for her in a boat that was doing this, but she was even sicker than normal, but for a very wonderful reason that would emerge somewhat later. Here was the view from the window, and you can see it was a fairly rough crossing. Now we're all at the zoo. Haven't been to the Detroit Zoo for such a long time. Should go visit it again sometime. As with the ducks, these animal sequences would have been good candidates to edit it out, but as I mentioned, the goal was to keep all the film that had been shot in Super 8 without trying to turn it into something that it wasn't at the time. And definitely a good candidate to edit out. Well, I'm mighty impressed the elephant goes ahead and does that. Maybe they got a good deal when the circus was finished with them. We are now moving from our one-bedroom apartment in Somerset Park across the road to a two-bedroom apartment in Somerset Park because we are eagerly anticipating the arrival of a baby. I do not recall who the guys are who so kindly helped us. There is one of the speakers that is now in Anita's living room in Chicago. Here is the view of our former apartment from our new apartment. You can see how close it was. So close that I'm walking the television across the road. How much easier it was to put that lamp in a convertible than in a regular sedan. There is the across the road trip. The television is the very one that Anita watched the first man landing on the moon on July 20 the next year. There it is, transported on its own wheels. And with that we end Reel 3, which ends in the fall of 68.